At this time, I think it's very important to pay homage and honors to introduce the El Day of the Ancient Free Moorish Rite. Um, Very humble brother, um, worldwide leader in this rite, um, but he needs to be recognized for who he is and what his title is.
Go right ahead.
Everyone, I'd like you to introduce to some, reaffirm with others, Brother Alim El Day, Sovereign Grand Commander of the Ancient Free Moorish Rite across the world. Brother Alim El Day, greetings, Brother El Day.
Greetings to you, Brother Edwards, National Dual Jurisdiction Grandmaster, and to you, Grandmaster Tony Hawkins. It is my honor, and it is a pleasure to be here with you. I see this, Brother Hawkins, as something monumental to the development of the Ancient Free Moorish Rite.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother.
I was going to say this platform for which we are gathered here today, this particular platform, if any brother wants to use this platform, wants to come on and have a discussion, this is open. This is our platform. Let me put it that way. So you have to let me know, but go ahead and finish. I just want to get that out there so no one would feel that they don't have a platform. This is our platform, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate that. And my express honors to all of the brethren that I see on, and also to the Ancient Free Moorish Rite Freemasons that I see on. I see some of my grandmasters, some of my good brothers, good friends. This is monumental, the Hawkins, and this is important. And a lot is going to come out of this. And we're going to get into this. We're going to have a discussion. We're going to enjoy ourselves. Brother Edwards, we're going to move this ship forward, brother, as you have been doing. And this is a vital part of it. This is pivotal, this meeting, thanks to you, Brother Tony Hawkins. And I'm going to thank you for initially suggesting that this is something that we do. So here we are, high seas sailing. That's what this is.
All right.
So Grandmaster Tony Hawkins, do you have any questions about the Ancient Free Moorish Rite for the El Day?
Well, I do have some questions here. I would like to know, what is the Ancient Free Moorish Rite and how was it started? And if so, by whom?
Great question. The Ancient Free Moorish Rite begins with Dr. Clifford E. Hazel Bay. Some of you are very familiar with him. Some of you may be hearing about him for the first time. The Ancient Free Moorish Rite.
Excuse me 1 second, El Day. Tony Hawkins, can you mute everyone except for me, you, and the El Day right now?
Yeah, hold on just a second. I was going back in there to do just that.
I'm sorry, Brother El Day.
No problem, brother.
I was trying to see who was wanting to be admitted. Let me close that out. And then I'm going to mute everybody, please. Everybody's muted. If you can hear me, just the brother who was speaking, go ahead. He can unmute himself.
Okay, I'm unmuted. And can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Brother Hawkins, direct to your question. The Ancient Free Moorish Rite, it was the vision of Dr. Clifford E. Hazel Bay. It was a vision that he nurtured for maybe 20 years before he began to manifest the Ancient Free Moorish Rite. Dr. Hazel Bay had been a seasoned, tenured Freemason. And along with that, he was as well a spiritualist as well. The ancient free Morse rite is born of his vision, of his efforts. And when we talk about the ancient free Morse rite, we start with him.
Okay. You got anything else you want to add to that? Or you want me to go to my next question?
If I could embellish more on
Go right ahead.
that question, yes, sir. And I would embellish more about Dr. Hazel and who he was. The ancient free Morse rite, he was a Scottish rite, most puissant sovereign grand commander, someone who had attained the highest degrees in Freemasonry and also had attained the highest stations in the ecumenical practices. He was as well a bishop, a reverend, and also an imam in Islam. And he too was had been a grand sheikh in the Moorish Science Temple. And so, of course, he's someone who has invested all of his life in spirituality and enlightenment. And he was also nursed a long time commitment to the struggle, to what we call the liberation struggle for oppressed people here in America and around the world. That's him, so that you have an idea of the man who he was. He was my father, not biologically, but spiritually. He was my teacher, my grandmaster, and someone that was like a biological father to me, and maybe even exceeding that at times in our relationship. Dr. Hazel, he died in 2013. He is no longer with us now. But this ancient free Morse rite, it came from him. He had the vision. And he, even at times in his own career, he explained to me that he was hesitant at times because of feeling that it would be hard to challenge a long-standing institution that we know as Freemasonry, and that people perhaps did not want to see another Masonic rite, and they did not want to see another Masonic rite homegrown in America, born of a non-European caste. He committed himself to this. He committed his life to it. And that's who he is. That's why we are here today. The Morse rite was not my design, was not my idea. It is exclusively from Dr. Hazel Bey, my father, a man I truly loved from head to toe, and my teacher.
Okay, anything? You got the floor, so I'm listening. And for those that are out there who don't know much about the Morse rite, this is that opportunity. This is your platform, and I definitely want to push that and put it out there, because a lot of people need to definitely understand it. And I know that some right now are wondering, what is this? What is this all about? Well, tonight's topic, it clearly says, are you practicing whose masonry are you practicing? That is tonight's topic. That is the introduction to the ancient free Morse rites and having an understanding of what that rite is. And I think this is that platform for it to be introduced. My next question is this: why do you have your own rituals instead of using one of the many Masonic rituals out there today? Why is that?
Okay, another good question. And Brother Hawkins, hold on to that. I'm going to prelude, and then I'm going to get to that. All right.
And time out just for a second.
Yes,
I know
sir.
everybody want to refer to me as Brother Hawkins, but I'm in this transition of actually going into Tony Muhammad. I'm headed that direction, brother. So if you guys can say Tony Muhammad, I certainly appreciate it. People want to say two names. You can call me everything, but call me the right name, Tony Muhammad, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, Grandmaster Tony Hawkins, because what I read, the name Muhammad means you can dance, and we all know you can't dance.
Well, you don't get that one, brother.
Brother L Day, continue, and I'm gonna have to mute Ray.
Well, brother Tony Muhammad, salam alaikum, brother.
Alaikum salam.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you want to mute brother Edwards?
No, he's good.
No, you're good, brother. You're good.
He's
You're good.
good.
You're good. So,
damn, L Day, you throwing me off. I mean, I'm just sorry, L Day. I'm finally looking at your picture, and I've seen you in person, but I always thought you was an old man.
Wow.
And now you look like you've been using like that Alberto VO5, and you've been using some cocoa butter. You look nice and young right now, L Day. I'm sorry, it just looks good on you.
It's that Viagra, brother. But
hey, that's one thing we need. We need fun in masonry. That's what we need. We need fun.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry, brother.
I do appreciate that, brother. You know, we don't get that all the time, right? So, yeah, certainly don't get that all the time. But I'm going to prelude brother Tony Muhammad, and to just to kind of make it more interesting, right? And I'm going to get to your question about our own ritual. Dr. Hazel used to attend the House of the Temple in Washington, D.C. And for some of you brethren who've been around the craft for a while, you are probably familiar with Fred Kleineck. He was a most puissant sovereign grand commander in the Scottish Rite. He sat over 17 million Freemasons worldwide. He'd written a score of books on the craft. And he and Doc, when I say Doc, I'm referring to Dr. Hazel. He and Doc were colleagues. They were confidants. And one day, wrapping up in the lodge, this is the way I get it from Dr. Hazel. Fred Kleineck said to him, he said, "Hey, Cliff," that's what they used to call him. Even his wife referred to him as Cliff. "Hey, Cliff, whatever happened to the Moorish Freemasons?" Now, coming from someone as tenured and as esteemed as Fred Kleineck, and as knowledgeable on the craft, it kind of threw Doc off for a minute, because Dr. Hazel had been studying, he had been doing research, and it had been his desire to put together something about the Moors and the Moorish, the forgotten or the obscured Moorish presence in Freemasonry. So there was a little bit of chuckling, a little bit of joking around, as perhaps the question was something that was not taken seriously and was not posed seriously. But Dr. Hazel took it excessively seriously, and he did not think that his friend was looking to make a subject of him. So he said to him, "I will get back to you on that." And when he said that, as I understand it, the chuckling and the laughter ceased. And so Dr. Hazel, you know, those of you know, it's about a 2-hour ride from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore, which is where Doc lived. He's impassioned on the way home. He's like, it's time to do this. It's time to get this thing off the ground. It's time for me to, I can finish my research later. I have to start putting this thing together now. There was a little sense of ridicule with him, but he's now filled with his mission. And his mission being to begin to put together the ancient free Morse rite. And I will tell you, maybe about a year or so after that, maybe a year and a half, when he got back to Kleineck, the ancient free Morse rite had been established in 2001. So Doc went to work on it. I became a part of that. And now, Brother Muhammad, that segues into the question about the ritual. And this is going to be something that seasoned Freemasons know. If you don't have your own ritual, you do not qualify as a rite. The operative word in ritual is rite. If you are going to be a rite, you must have your own ritual. Now, I know sometimes we may relax that Masonic ordinance and say, well, I'm just going to use the rituals that are out here and we're still a rite. No, you're not. You got to have your own ritual, or else let's go right back to the name of this conference. Then whose Freemasonry are you practicing?
Go ahead.
So you must have your own rite. And this is why, Brother Muhammad, it was imperative and it meant everything that we had to have our own Masonic rite. We could not use Lester's. We could not use Nizardini's. We could not use Renee's, right? We could not use the Churchward version. We could not use Pike. If we were going to truly be a rite and we were going to truly be an ancient free Moorish rite, which just by dint of the name would raise eyebrows as it did, we would have to have our own ritual. And when the ancient free Moorish rite was launched, one of the first things they said was, well, whose ritual are you using? Because they were accustomed to that when it came to, I'm going to use the word, us, or anyone non-Anglo inspired. That is the answer to the question, Brother Muhammad, because if you're going to be a rite, then you must have your own ritual.
That is true. So,
Yes, sir.
let me see. Are you a part of the Morse Science Temple of America under Prophet Noble Drew Ali?
When you say you, are you asking me expressly
the Morse rites? The Morse rites.
Oh, no, sir. No, sir. We are not the Morse Science Temple of America. All due respect to that organization and all due respect to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. The inception of the ancient free Morse rite, people wanted us to be linked or be a part of. And at times, some people would join the Morse rite and they'd be looking for the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And when Doc began to build, he wanted to respect Prophet Noble Drew Ali. He, like myself, had been members, both of us had been members of the Moorish Science Temple. Both of us had been sheiks in the Moorish Science Temple. We were not going to walk on or step on the Prophet's work. We needed to respect what Prophet Noble Drew Ali did. We needed to respect the knowledge that he brought. We needed to respect his appointment in his time dispensation. We were not going to usurp his work or muddle his work with our work. Now, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, may the peace and blessings of the Creator be upon him. He did not make us Moors. He enlightened us to the fact that we were Moors. We trace a Moorish history that goes back beyond Prophet Noble Drew Ali and even towards some of the history, the Moorish history that he himself talked about. But nothing but respect for the Prophet. But you won't find the muddling of the Prophet's literature within the literature of the ancient Free Moorish Rite. So we are not the same. All due respect to that organization, all due respect to that history.
Okay. All right. I just want to let you know we're up over 100 brothers live on the Zoom tonight. So I definitely want to definitely send that shout out to all the brothers who are tuning live Zoom and also on the YouTube channel. We're up to 100 live. So I just want to send that big shout out to you for your participation tonight. Now, here's my other question.
Excuse me 1 second, Grandmaster. Excuse me 1 second. You got to recognize the sisters because there's sisters on this call as well because it was open to everybody.
Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? And I did see the sisters. So we have a combined 100 on the Zoom, brothers and sisters. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I have my national Duriuma, Sister Linda King. She's present.
Okay. Kid, she can unmute herself and introduce herself if she liked.
Peace. Greetings, everyone.
Greetings and peace.
A pleasure to be on the call.
Do you have anything you would like to say right now?
Peace. No, I'm just learning and grateful to be on this call and appreciation to Brother L.J. Arleem and Grandmaster Raymond Edwards.
Great.
Thank you, Sister King.
But you know why she's on the call? Because she was told that when they come to shopping, she gets a special discount when it comes to the ancient Free Moorish Rite.
Well, that's the way it has to be. And for Sister King,
peace.
Hey, come on, sister.
Brother,
all honors.
Grandmaster Raymond Edwards, is there anyone else in particular you would like to introduce real quick before I go into the other questions?
No, there's a lot of individuals, especially like I see from the ancient Free Moorish Rite proper and the ancient Free Moorish Rite dual jurisdiction. We'll get to that later on in the call.
Okay.
But I'm just liking everybody that's here, no matter whether you're a member now or you plan to become a member. But after this call, there should be steps that would make you understand why I need to get some of this information, because it's really not about the information. Like, we have what we consider melanin. Melanin is not just what protects our skin from the sun. Melanin actually draws us together as a people.
Okay. We're going to touch on that. You hold that one. Now, my next question is why, I you know, when I was glancing through the pictures, why I see the brothers with the swords or swords? What could you elaborate on that?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Well, you know, the sword play, as you would call it, or sword fighting and sword veneration, that would include the naming of swords, the infusing of swords, the importance of a sword in the culture. That has always been something that has been dear to Moors and a part of the Moorish culture. We infused them, we prized them, we cherished them. Most cultures do brand a sword that bespeaks of their culture and also evidences their metallurgical discipline. So you and I know that when it comes to swords, they are immensely popular throughout history, often deployed as a weapon of war, and often used too as a ceremonial ornament. So swords are very important. And Dr. Hazel loved swords. He presented me with a sword that was specifically for the position of the Supreme Grand Commander of the Ancient Free Moorish Rite. And I, in fashion, named that sword. And if you have a sword, you should name it. If you haven't named it, get to naming it. Brother Muhammad, it is a cultural thing, long-standing with our ancestors. We were enamored, literally, by swords. So it's cultural with Moors, and that's why you see us brandishing our swords. Yes, sir. That is in our history, and as it is again in the history of other cultures as well. And I will embellish, Brother Muhammad, that the development of the sword parallels and the evolvement of the sword parallels the evolvement and the development of humanity itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we know that the sword came before the gun, it came before projectiles, it came before missiles.
Okay.
You're talking about one of your first fundamental weapons and defense pieces.
Okay. I have another question for you.
Yes, sir.
And the sister already spoke. However, I know now. My question was, were there any sisters involved? And I know the answer now. Would you mind elaborating on that?
Sure. I think we have a few OMS sisters on. Not sure. I think sister from the OMS, which is the Order of Morris Star, and I'm just talking about my sisters right now. I believe we have the Duri Oma of Nefertiti Osler, #1. Sister Audrey. Sister Audrey, are you on? You could just introduce yourself. I thought I saw you.
Peace.
Peace.
Look,
sister.
Look, the sisters are like they shot, but the brothers, the man knows sisters can talk. I want to hear the sisters say something just besides peace.
Grandmaster
Is that
Tony
all right?
Hawk, I'm just warning you, be careful what you ask for.
Uh-huh.
Because these sisters are not shy about knowledge.
Right.
I'm telling you now.
Light me up. I mean, that's me. I mean, if it's okay, I would like a sister to kind of like elaborate a little bit, just give me peace is cool. But if you don't mind, I'm okay with it.
That's right. Sister Audrey, perhaps you wouldn't mind, and if you could work it in concert with another OMS sister to just elaborate a little on what the OMS is. It's the Order of Morris Star. And I will follow up on how the OMS came to be, Brother Muhammad?
Yes, sir. Peace and fraternal greetings, everyone. My name is Sister RJB.
Cannot hear you.
All right. Is that better?
Sister, we cannot hear you.
Peace.
There you go.
Okay, I apologize. Peace and fraternal greetings, everyone.
Same thing. We cannot hear
I
you.
can't hear you.
Yeah, it seems like she's fading out.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
what I'll do now, just for a second, is allow her to gather and do what she has to do on that end, but I'm gonna move on to another question I have. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is gonna be a little touchy. This is gonna be a little touchy for you. Just so I'm gonna throw it out there for you. I've
Yes,
heard
sir.
that white Freemasons wrote the Morse rite ritual. Is that
Yeah.
true?
Um,
Now I'm just saying. Now I mean, I'm that guy. I'm
Brother
asking.
Muhammad,
Yeah.
brother, that doesn't even sound right.
Well, whether it sounds right or not, I'm asking the question.
Who had to teach them how to write the Constitution? So how are they
look,
gonna teach somebody how to do them? And I'm gonna let that go, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you don't know something, you need to ask.
that's right.
And so I don't know. I'm not part of the ancient free Moorish rites at this time. I'm not a part of that. So I'm asking, just like he said, if you don't have your own rituals, then you don't have a right. And he named off several rituals that most ancient free and accepted Masons jurisdictions uses. I got that now. Now, with that being said, he knows who wrote those rituals that most of us use in our various jurisdictions. Now, in order for me to understand the Morse rites, I want to know, was it a white Mason who wrote it? How did you, I mean, you said you got your own rights and your own rituals. There you go. I'm just asking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That that question has been put to us, especially in the beginning. We got that all the time. You know, there was like a lot of skepticism from time to time. But when you were in Dr. Hazel's circle, everybody knew what was going on. That didn't come up in Doc's jurisdiction. And for the people who were around what was happening, you know, with the advent of the ancient tree Morse rite. But a lot of times, like so many years following outside that and after that, Brother Muhammad, this is something that would come up. Now, it has no basis in reality, right? It's just not true. However, when it would come to certain people in certain demographic, then there would be an assumption that we were not qualified to produce anything authentic and to produce anything that would be viable, right? So it's like, well, you know, you must have had someone else do this. Someone else must have done it. And in that sense, it would be like an affront, an insult to Dr. Hazel, it would be an insult to me. Dr. Hazel would always laugh it off. I would always be bothered by it more. You know, like, man, I can't believe that they're saying this. And Doc would just kind of laugh it off. He'd say, just laugh it off, son. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Now, I understood that there had been some lodges, some, you know, Black lodges or African-American lodges or what have you, and even some lodges overseas that they enlisted the services of a white person to put that together for them. Now, when I look at the ancient tree Morse rite ritual on Northwood Sale, and I review my part in it, which is a big major part, to me, the question could be, so what if one did? Even though that's not the case, because as Brother Edward said earlier, it's not just so much about caste and melanin like that and a division between people, but it's absurd, completely false. And Dr. Hazel was adamant about the fact that we were not going to, I'm going to use his word, we were not going to go to whitey poo for nothing. When it came to our regalia, when it came to our writing, when it came to our materials, he did not want to go to whitey poo for anything. And again, Brother Muhammad, I'm going to embellish. There was a time when Doc and I went to all of the places. It was to have the Masonic apron fashioned, and to all of the places that we always would support. Right,
Mhm.
you know, McCoy's Publishing, one of the big ones, and some other places in New York City. I don't know if I really want to call those names out. Definitely connected with the, you know, the Grand Lodge of New York there. We went to them personally and said, would you make this Masonic apron for us? We even offered to pay 3 times the amount because we wanted the apron fashioned. I guess we felt that we needed to go through the, you know, Masonic channels, right? So you go to the popular places. We've been supporting you for years. I stood there where Doc said this at McCoy's Publishing. You know, we've supported you for a long time. You know, basically gotten everything from you. This is just a favor that we need.
Right.
And we'd like to get a couple of them, but if we could just get one, you know, we'd be grateful. Well, you know, this is how much it costs to do it. Da, 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 da. Well, you know, we'd be willing to pay you double. And at that time, I'd look at Doc, I'd be like, yo, what you talking about? You know, but and then he'd say, look, you know, could you do this for us? You know, we'd be much obliged to you. They didn't want to do it. They did not want to touch it. They didn't want to do any aprons. They didn't want to do. Now, to me, it was an awakening because, you know, I loved Freemasonry, you know, and, you know, purchased a lot of things from these Masonic outlets, you know, gladly purchased it, you know, didn't question the price. You know, that's what it is. Then, hey, you know, I'm going to get it. And they flatly turned us down. Now, I had a good relationship, Brother Edwards, with one of the seamstresses up in New York. You know, I wasn't involved with her. I'm talking about a purchasing relationship. You know, I don't want Brother Edwards to tease me.
You got to do what you got to do.
Had a good relationship with her. But, you know, speaking in a romantic tone, I was heartbroken when she refused to do our apron or any of our other regalia. My last point of embellishment. I had to go to a shoemaker. I picked up the skins, if anybody knows, from the garment district in New York. I picked up the skins. At the time, lambskin was too expensive. So I had to buy cowhide. Now, cowhide is so thick and rough, I could roll it up, hit you over the head and knock you out like you were Hiram. You know what I'm saying? However, I went to a shoemaker and I told the shoemaker what I needed. Offered to pay him extra. Of course, hey, look, I only work with shoes. However, he was like, okay, I will do this. I gave him the measurements, the specs, the design. And I said, I really need this because it was desperate. Everybody turned us down. I mean, everybody.
Mm.
Nobody would do it.
Wow.
I go to a shoemaker, and the shoemaker, I think he put together about 3 of them for me. And I was just like so glad and so happy, kicking my heels happy, when he called me back after a week or so and said, hey, I have these things for you. Now, my own suspicion was that he may have been a brother of the craft. And as Doc said, if he wasn't a brother of the craft, he would not have done it. He made the aprons. And when I first took the apron and presented it to Dr. Hazel, he cried. And I was curious about the tears. And he said, this is the first time in my 42 years of Freemasonry that I've ever seen our people make anything. That's the story with that, Brother Muhammad.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's how we got our first Morse right, the pyramidal aprons that you see. Yeah, I'll never forget. We had, I think 2 had a blue border. No, one had two had a blue border. One had the red border.
I'm going to say this real quick. Just a little while ago, I received a phone call from a Prince Hall brother. I ain't gonna even call him a brother. I'm just gonna say a person, an individual, because I know all do not carry themselves that way. Please be mindful. When you call me, I'm going to Q&A you, so don't trip. I mean, if you don't like the fact you're being Q&A when you call me, don't make the call. Don't call me up and say, hey, Brother Hawkins, and I call a name out and you say, yeah, this is you. And then when I go to hit you up, don't do that. Don't do that. You're so disrespectful to your organization. Don't do that. Brother Day, you may continue, brother.
Well, yeah, brother, that's it. That is an early lesson where it concerns our regalia. And that was a hard lesson to learn, as I was saying to you, Brother Edwards, because I had purchased so much from that store up there in New York City.
Right.
And
23rd Street.
yes, sir. That's right. Yes, sir, brother. 23rd Street. Purchased so much and was just flatly turned down. So I realized that there were people who were not going to be invested in seeing a new Masonic rite, and especially not one of a diverse demographic.
Okay. My next question is going to be, I think I heard you mention Dr. How you say his name? Dr. Bay. I want to say Hazel.
Dr. Hazel Bay.
Yeah. Who was he in? Yeah. Who was he involved? Was he actively involved in the Morse rites?
Wow, it's a good question. Well, yes, a whole lot of yes.
Okay.
And no, with a very minimal no. Now, what do I mean by that? Dr. Hazel, he never became an ancient free Morse rite Mason himself. Now, that was his choice. Now, of course, I mean, I would always defer to him with anything, just out of my love and respect for him.
Right.
Right. He could have said, hey, get out the seat, go jump off the bridge, Brother Aleem. I'm taking over, and I would have done it. I probably would have hesitated at the bridge, but probably would have found myself splashing into water, right? Dr. Hazel established this for us. And as he was to tell me later, he'd reached the pinnacle of a Masonic career. He'd been in Freemasonry 44 plus years. Everybody loved and respected Dr. Hazel. But he never assumed an official position within the ancient free Morse rite. I asked him to, and he knew that his word was gospel when it came to the ancient free Morse rite, and he knew that his word was final on anything. But he used to say to me, son, you never give a man a job and then undermine him in that job. And that's something that I carry with me today, and I've carried with me throughout my Masonic career. So, yes, sir. The big yes was that, Brother Hawkins, his presence and his consultation and his guidance was with every part of it, every step of the way, 24/7. But did he ever assume a title in the ancient free Morse rite? He did not.
Okay.
He did not want to.
Okay. What about Sister Bessie? His wife? That's his wife?
Yes, sir. That's right.
What about her?
Oh man. Sister Bessie, like Dr. Hazel, was one of these once in a lifetime people. Sister Bessie, she was very stern, yet very loving. And she was the rock at his side. And, she was so endeared to him that anybody on here who's ever heard Dr. Hazel speak, I've never heard Dr. Hazel speak and not finish his sermon or lecture or what have you, or discourse publicly without saying and dedicating it to, he would say, Sister Bessie, my love. She was his rock. She was also a supreme grand matron of the jurisdiction, Scottish Rite, Southern and Western Hemisphere. She too passed away maybe 8 years before Doc did, maybe a little more or less. But she was a very, very special person, special lady. We all refer to her as Mother, and she certainly was that. I'm going to say now, embellishment. Had it not been for Sister Bessie, I'm not sure if the OMS would have even gotten off the ground.
Okay. Now, how does one become a member of the Morse Rite?
You're gonna find out in about 3 weeks.
That's
Yeah.
Ray Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking. Go ahead, El.
Well, Brother Edwards forgot to tell you, you're going to find out in a couple of weeks if you survive it. If you survive our initiation. No, but in all candor, brother, again, just allow me to prelude. Dr. Hazel wanted us to put the Ancient Free Morse Rite online. He was very big on the internet. He had vision, man. He saw this thing coming. And he's one of the first people that told me, he said, the internet is going to be everything. We're going to do business on there. People are going to get degrees on there. Man, he said, this is Melchizedek. He gave a speech. I forgot what year it was. And he said, who is Melchizedek? That was the name of the speech. And people came from all over. And as we were going there, brothers were saying, oh man, I think he's going to say he's Melchizedek. And then he's going to go floating around the room and, and he said Melchizedek was the internet.
Mm.
And he said divine and collective mind. And at the time, the internet was not what it is now. I mean, it was below the embryonic stage. It was not what it is now. And Doc wanted us to put the Morse Rite online. Now, I was skeptical about that. I was like, what are you going to put it online for? Like, why we got to be different? That kind of thing. And he said, because that's the way the world is going, son. You're going to have to put this thing up online. And you keep it there. And then he said, and then I was like, well, man, that's going to take time, resources, internet, all that stuff. Nobody trusts the internet, that whole spiel, right? And he said, if you have the Morse Rite online for 20 years, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I don't know where he's going with this because I'm paying for this site to be up, And he goes, if you have it online for 20 years, and he says, and you only get one Morse Rite Freemason, he says, it's worth it. And that reverberated with me, like the largest bell you could possibly imagine. And I felt it. I said, you know what? It is. I felt it. You know what it made me think of, Brother Muhammad?
What's that?
When Master Fard Muhammad said, I'll walk 40 miles up in a mountain just to save one.
Mm.
And I thought about that when Doc said that. I saw Dr. Hazel in that kind of light. For that moment, I saw him in that kind of halo. For me, he already had a halo.
When you said you walked the 40 miles, that made me think about another obligation I took.
Well, come on, brother.
It made me think about another obligation I took. I said I'll walk some miles in the storm and in the sleet and the snow.
Come on, brother. Come on, brother. That's how we do it. That's the only way you get there. That's the only way you get here.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Doc said that, I was like, well, I'm going to do it. So, express to your question. Morse Rite Freemasons, they join through what we call an online process. An online process. And I need to say something. I need to say something right now. And I'll get back to that. The Morse Rite was online for about a good 4.5 years before anybody even joined or touched it, right? I would look at the metrics and I would see where so many thousands of people had visited the site. And sometimes that was satisfying. We'll say, well, at least so many thousands of people know that we exist. Nobody came through. There's one brother. He was the first brother to come through the online process. And I see him here now, and he's on the line. Brother, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Put him on spot.
But you see the brother Morris Knight, our Grandmaster Kareem from Illinois. That brother came through. I used to watch the website every day, 24 hours a day. I'd be cheating. I'd be watching it from work. All right. Nothing for like 4 years. When Brother Kareem went on the site and he registered, I thought it was a dream. I thought I was dreaming or something. I was like, and I called up Dr. Hazel before I even went and checked out Brother Kareem's specs. I was like, somebody's on there. He's like, well, what did you expect, son? I was like, well, I didn't expect this. You know, it's been all this time. Brother Kareem, Morris Knight, if you choose to say anything, brother, that is a distinction, brother, that in my heart, you will always have. And you will always have a special place in the ancient free Morse rite because of it, because that is history. That is our history. It cannot be erased. And the supreme navigator of the universe guided you to that site, being the first person, Brother Muhammad. We've been up for like 4 years. You know, so you ever really try to watch a pot boil? You know, you'll boil before it does.
True.
And in this case, that was Brother Kareem. And if he cares, Brother Kareem, if he cares to say something, he will. But that's how we joined, brother. That's one of the ways. It's called an online process. And the other way is how you see what Grandmaster Edwards is doing now. And excuse my language. Grandmaster Edwards, he wants to take your ass and initiate you. So, excuse my language. He takes you through that way. And we do the same within the ancient free Morse rite. We initiate you too, but we bring you aboard the ship. And Dr. Hazel loved it. He was maybe together between him and myself, sort of brainstormers behind how it would look and how it should work. But he loved it. He loved the process because he used to say, we got to remember, Freemasonry goes after those who would otherwise remain at a distance. And with the advent of the internet and the ancient free Morse rite being new in this time dispensation, is beautiful, brother. And it has been working beautifully ever since Brother Kareem. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think shortly after that, another brother had came in the same month. I'm not even sure if Brother Kareem had recommended him or not, but that was a great day in the ancient free Morse rite. And Dr. Hazel and I, we did celebrate. Doc could be very serene about things like that and say, well, what did you expect? But when you pulled them into the moment, he had that side of him too, that could rejoice with you. Yes, sir.
All right. I want to see if I can get another sister to come on and share her experience, if she doesn't mind.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I see Linda King on here. Does she want to say anything, Sister King? You got to unmute yourself. She probably stepped away. So with that being said, and I know we've covered quite a few questions here tonight, Brother Raymond Edwards, what made you get involved with the ancient free Morse rites? What drew you to that?
A good friend of mine, his name is Brother Jalil. All the ancient free Morse rite and a lot of the brothers around the country know who Brother Jalil is. And we used to study a lot. And I've been a Mason since 1988. I'm not a Google Mason. I'm the old school Mason, where we had to actually purchase books, whether it was from McCoy's, the Masonic Encyclopedia, and study things. So everything that I started researching always had extra questions. Anybody that's been a Mason for a long time, you've been initiated, you understand certain things about Freemasonry, but you always know there were questions that were unanswered. So Brother Jalil introduced me to the L Day. And what happened, once he introduced him, we talked about certain things, and it was a vision of the brothers in Green Light to assist and help a lot of the brethren around the country to understand the truth when it comes to Freemasonry. Like, we all heard the stories, oh, this is what it started, oh, this is you know, the Illuminati and all those things were made from Caucasian influence. I'm not going to sit back here and tell you that a lot of that stuff is just something that was designed to make sure we thought those other individuals were charged with. So after I started looking at certain things, after we started talking about certain things, I already knew as a Mason, because I've always been the guy that said, this isn't exactly right. But since I joined the Ancient Free Moorish Rite, which will be about 5 years from today, we had conversations, we had instruction. Brother Aleem came to my session where a lot of Freemasons were there. We did the first initiation and we started the Ancient Free Moorish Rite dual jurisdiction. What is a dual jurisdiction? The dual jurisdiction is designed for people that are already traditional Masons that want to understand more about the truth. And so, you know, I look at the whole thing as we as regular Masons or traditional Masons knew that there was more. So now we see that there is more. So if you say, like a Prince Hall guy was calling me, and I'm not trying to bash Prince Hall, he said, well, how do you believe who is clandestine? I said, well, guess what? I don't acknowledge you, you don't acknowledge me. But as long as we're respectful, we can coexist and enjoy Freemasonry. So now that we're at where we're at, who was the first Mason in the world historically? It was not Prince Hall. It was not Albert Pike. Those things were, I'm not going to say they were stolen. The Moors at that time were about teaching the world. Everything they did was about sharing understanding. The Moors taught people about taking baths. The Moors taught people about cultivating crops, doing educational things. So now, what
You're
are we
supposed to be
learning?
back there. Okay. Sorry.
What are we doing now? We're learning the truth. And this is the greatest thing about this whole situation. And Tony Hawkins, you can do this. Me and you have been friends a long time. The first time we ever had a conversation about bringing Masons together, we just had a friendly conversation and said, hey, let's celebrate John G. Jones's 100-year anniversary. So we as good members took that situation to the leaders. I was a Grand Master, Tony was a Grand Master. We took it to the President Generals of a Congress, of the Congresses where we brought together and said, hey, listen, we think it would be a great idea to bring all of these men together under John G. Jones's name. Well, of course, right after that, certain individuals took control of it and said, this is what we're going to do. And guess what? They could not get along because everybody was worrying about who's going to be in charge. Now, Tony Hawkins, you were there. We were both there at John G. Jones's gravesite in Chicago about 10 or 12 years ago, before anybody had any AF&AM, Black AF&AM, any of those situations where they tried to bring it together. Guess what? We were there. We were the originals that came up with that concept. You know I'm not lying. So now, where are we at right now? We're bringing organizations together so that we can respectfully coexist and say, okay, we don't have to dictate over anybody because we don't do that in Ancient Free Moorish Rite. We share information. What the Ancient Free Moorish Rite is teaching people is the cultural history of being a Mason and understanding how Moors brought Masonry to the world. Everything that they've taken, you can go from the Knights Templar to the Royal Arch. There was a Moorish presence on all of those things. So now, what do we say? Oh, the Illuminati. Oh, this, that, and the other. Oh, this, that, and the other. Nah, bro. Show me where your documentation predicated everything that the Moors did. And that's my piece on that situation at this present time.
Sir.
Okay, the gentleman that you said was first brought online, I want to hear from him.
Yeah, that's Morse Right Grandmaster Kareem.
Peace and fraternal greetings. How you brothers and sisters doing?
Peace, brother Kareem. Peace, brother.
Islam.
Peace, brother.
Yes, sir. Man, it was the Supreme Navigator who brought me to the Enlightenment. I always wanted to look into Masonry. There was some brothers around the way who were, I knew some old men. One brother was Prince Hall and one brother was Scottish Rite. They tried to get me to join in with their jurisdiction, but somehow I gravitated to the Morse Rite. And lo and behold, I joined and started selling from there.
So
And that was about in 2009.
Okay.
And I just want to say something about Brother Kareem. I've had incidences with a lot of individuals with either they were Morse Rite or they weren't Morse Rite. But that brother has always been a total encouragement to me. Ray, don't worry about it. Keep doing what you're doing. And that's what I love about Brother Kareem. We have never met in the flesh, but anytime I call you, he's like, what's up, beloved? How you doing? Brother Kareem, I need your advice. What you need, bro? And he's guided me in certain situations when it comes to building. Never once let me down. Never once said, if you don't call me back. He answers the phone every time I call.
I have a question. I see that past Grandmaster Noble Diaz has his hand up. Go ahead, brother. What's your question?
Greetings. Can you guys hear me fine?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
My question would be, where did the clock of destiny come from? And how did that play into the Morse Rite?
Can I answer that, Brother Elday?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother.
The Clock of Destiny is a beautiful organization. My great friend Nakeem Bey is one of the top figures in the Clock of Destiny. Nakeem will also be at our session coming up in a few weeks in New Jersey and Atlantic City at the Tropicana Hotel to receive his Morse Rite degree. Because of his stature in the Clock of Destiny, I will be giving him degrees because I think he's a vital part of Masonic history. He's a Mason, he's a Moor, he's a lot of things. And he's not an individual that does not understand how influential and important it is for us to understand that the ancient Freemasonic Rite is the path of understanding for a lot of us. And like I said, we sit down, he's bringing members from all over the country and all over the world to New Jersey. So I encourage you, if you brothers want to come, reach out to me. My phone number is 973-392-9003. And we are going to have a great time of fellowship when it comes to us building this situation and enhancing, building on the dream of Dr. Clifford E. Hayes L-Bay, because it was his vision to bring land and sea together. We already know as stonemasons, which what we're emblematic of, that we worked at the building site, at the temple, but we had to get there. The ancient Freemasonic Rite is an understanding of how we traveled there. The whole situation is pretty much based on how harmonious all those Masons work together to get great projects done. So it's a greater understanding of Freemasonry, and it doesn't have the so-called Anglo-Saxon intervention, because we know that at one time there was one landmass, Pangea. So after the continental drift or continental divide, whatever you want to call it, there were separate situations across the globe. So now what do we do to bring these people together? We do what we're doing right now. Sharing information, teaching people, learning how to culturally understand that all of this predicates organizations. Right now, you can't find another situation where we're bringing Asiatics. We are Asiatic. We come from Asia. The first place. Asia means sun. So if Asia means sun, that's why we say we're raising the sun. We're teaching everybody's understanding. Some of the calls that we have when it comes to the ancient free Morse rite, we're giving information that people can relate to. We're not telling you believe what we say. Do the research. Read your Bible, read your Quran, read any type of literature you got, and you will understand that all of this came from the father of pure Masonic thought, and his name was Angelo Salamine. That's my piece.
Peace, Brother Edwards. I just want to embellish my brother, Noble Diaz Ali, for some clarity with respect to what you just said, Brother Edwards. Brother, the Clock of Destiny and the Ancient Free Morse Rite are not the same organization. One is not a splinter group or an offshoot of the other. We do not share the same organizational anatomy. Different organizations entirely. Now, we have members in the Morse Rite who have been members of the Clock of Destiny organization. But how does the Morse Rite factor into it? Perhaps like Brother Edward said, especially with a brother like Nakeem coming through. But organizationally, not the same. But Dr. Hazel was someone who studied Clock of Destiny, as did myself. I was in a lodge with figurative members of Clock of Destiny and some very real members of the Clock of Destiny. But that was in another lodge. But organizationally, we are not the same. And I trust that you do know that.
Oh, I just wanted to get firsthand because when I first heard about you guys, I was
Please introduce yourself, brother, please. I'm sorry.
I'm past Grandmaster Noble Diaz of Mount Zion Grand Lodge for Ancient Free Accepted Masons of Virginia.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you. I grew up in Boston, went to school in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it might have been 02, 03. I think I was on something like this, YouTube or on the internet, and I came across the Clock of Destiny, and might have been like a sophomore, junior in high school. But reading that and learning about Angelo Solomon and being from Boston, already knowing about the Prince Hall, I would say the Clock of Destiny is what probably sparked my interest in Freemasonry and astrology. And I just went down the rabbit hole until, it's 2022, 33 years old now. And I just want to thank you guys for putting a lot of that information out there, especially early, like you said, in the early 2000s. Because at that point, I didn't really know any, I wasn't a Mason, obviously, but I didn't know that there were people like me organizing and moving through the country with this higher esoteric knowledge. Because I went to school in Cambridge, Mass, and yeah, some of our teachers were like Harvard professors and teachers' aides and things like that. So some of the things they would talk to us about, it was resonating when I found the Clock of Destiny, and kind of accelerated my learning curve. So I just want to give props to you brothers for putting that information out there.
Thank you, sir.
Peace.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated.
I know that people are asking, can they join the Zoom? I don't have the information directly in front of me, but if anybody want to put it in the chat, as far as on the live that we're doing on the YouTube, you're certainly welcome to do so. Certainly welcome to do so. Is there any other questions from the membership here that is on the live Zoom? Because I know we've gone through quite a bit of information tonight. I've learned a lot myself, and I know there are brothers from all over the country that are here, including the sisters. Don't want to leave you out. And that's another thing. A lot of times we get into our various lodges and chapters, and we tend to forget the sisters. And I'm glad that Brother L reminded me that, and so did Brother Edwards reminded that we had sisters on here tonight. And I always want to give them the opportunity to say something when they're involved in whatever we're doing, so they don't feel or they know that they're needed and they walk beside us, not behind us.
That's right.
I'm going to correct you on something, Grandmaster Tony Muhammad.
Go ahead.
When it comes to the sisters, there's something that we call complementarity and duality. That means they walk with us. We need them just as much as they need us. Neither one predicate the other. Neither one jumps out in front of the other. Yes, it's our job to protect them. Like we operate as Ancient Free Morse Rite. We are the ship. They are the sails. They help us on our journey to make our journey more comfortable. Like you cannot be a part of the Ancient Free Morse Rite unless, not dual jurisdiction, Ancient Free Morse Rite or the Order Morse Star, unless you are married to a sister. Because we already know how things have gone when it comes to Masonry, when it comes to brothers dealing with sisters. We're not the type of organization that abuses our sisters, don't disrespect our sisters. We bring them along with us just like we do. Now, Sister Audrey, she has some great information. And one time we had a call and she was designing this lodge online. And I'm like, well, hold up. Why do y'all got solid gold toilets and the brothers don't have that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And guess what? It was a great conversation. It was a lot of fun. It was very, very educational. The sisters bring as much to the situation as the brothers. And
All
that's
right.
the way it's designed.
Sister
I
Monique.
want to call on Sister Audrey now. I'm
Oh.
sorry, brother. You have
No,
another
I
sister
see
to call on?
Sister Monique, and I want to know if she has something to say, and Sister Audrey also.
Peace and fraternal greetings, everyone. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes, peace, sister.
Yes, peace, sister.
Peace. My name is Sister Audrey V of the Order of Morse Star, and I thank you for the invite. I am Duriuma of Nefertiti number 1, and to help further explain what the OMS is about, we have Rosheni, Sister Deanna Ward L, to further explain, and also
Peace.
want to introduce Raisa, Sister Karanda Page as well. Peace.
Peace, peace. This is Sister Deanna Ward, Rashini of Order of the Morse Star. Peace and fraternal greetings to everybody on the line.
Peace.
Peace, sister.
Peace.
We missing anybody else? I do.
Peace. Peace. This is Sister Keita Bembry, also at the OMS Virginia.
All right, Virginia in the house. Okay. Is there? I know Brother L was mentioning a sister who probably would like to elaborate on the order from a sister's point of view. Is there
Yes,
anybody
sir.
willing-
We were going to have Rosheni Deanna Ward L to further explain about what OMS is about.
I'm down.
Peace, sister.
She can go ahead.
Peace, peace. Thank you, Sister. Peace. I appreciate it. Just to elaborate a little bit, not to, because we could get carried away very easily, but in respects to time as well. The Order of the Morse Star is a sacred organization where women of all cultures, races, religions, etc., can share ideas and talents and collective work. We are given the divine opportunity of a platform, where our creativity flows and success is the reward of our efforts. Together as one sisterhood, we help to make an effective and positive change in our world As far as the purposes of the Order of Moorish Stars to provide spiritual women, especially of Moorish orientation, devoted to God and humanity, a genuine sisterhood in which to work for the good of themselves, their families, and their people, their village, and to cultivate within the sisterhood the principles of morality, spirituality, truth, friendship, and sovereignty through the eminent didactic of the right. Peace.
Oh, that's straight direct and to the point, to the point. That's straight, no chaser. Brother Goodman, I don't know if you can hear me or not. I don't think he can hear me here. Is there anyone else that would like to elaborate on anything that was talked about?
Tony, I had to switch my,
Oh,
I had to
okay.
switch it to unmute.
Okay.
Peace and
Go ahead,
blessings,
talk to me.
everyone. My question is with the ancient Moorish rite, because I know how it is back east. But out here on the West Coast, are there any lodges that are practicing the ancient Moorish rite at this time?
There will be one after about 3 weeks from now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, brother.
They're going to 3 weeks again.
Yeah. Now that's with ancient free Morse rite dual jurisdiction. Now it may take some time for us to demarcate the difference between the two, although one grows out of the other. But we also have brethren in Los Angeles area, and they've got something coming up, I believe, like next month. So you're on this call, and you will be steered to get with Brother Edwards. But to give you a generic answer, we will be having some initiations in the Los Angeles area soon.
The reason I'm asking, Brother Tony Muhammad, we're both in the same Grand Lodge. So that's
all right. Yeah. So
you teach him how to dance, bro.
In good hands.
Brother Goodwin, that's a shame. Y'all let Tony walk around dancing with people like he can really dance, bro. It's disrespectful the way he dances in front of people.
Hey, Tony's doing his thing, bro.
I like to see it.
Ray, you ain't gonna let me live that one down.
No, unless we call you illustrious left shoe.
Hey, Ray, do you have it on video?
Yeah, we got proof. We got documentation.
That's all we need to know. All right, bro. I'm gonna give it to you on that one.
I'm using that as leverage right now.
All right. Is there anyone else on here who has anything else that they would like to add to the conversation at hand? Anyone? Hold on just a second. I'm going over to the YouTube and let's see what questions we got over there. All right. So I'm giving my life before my word shall fail. Okay. I don't know what that is. This peace, God, I will take your word. Okay. I'm just trying to see if anybody has any questions over here for tonight. And if so, you can go ahead and post, or you can ask. I'm quite sure we have brothers on here and sisters on here who has enough knowledge and light that they will be able to share information with you. Definitely, we've been on here for about an hour or so.
Peace.
And I just want to, who is that? Who wants to say something?
Yes, sir. This is Audrey V. I have a question for the Supreme Grand Commander Lee Day.
Go for it.
Peace, Sister Audrey.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm asking this question for myself and mainly the benefit of the audience. My prelude to the question, I'm reading it because I just wrote it down. My prelude to the question for the L Day is about writing. Now you've helped me to write 2 books so far, L Day.
That's right.
And I found that process to be very educational and much more informing than some of the writing classes that I have taken. I've never asked you this before, strangely, but what inspired you to be a writer? And I ask this because working with you has inspired me to want to continue to pursue writing. Peace.
Okay, that's a personal. Now, do you mean writing for the Morse right, or just generically, just writing?
In both terms, Elde, for the Morse right and you personally. Peace.
Okay, thank you. Well, if I could, I'll try to go through this swiftly for the sake of the audience as well. You know, I've been doing it for a long time, Sister Audrey. And, you know, as I look at things, I think that, you know, I grew up where my mother wasn't with me, and communication with her was a challenge. And as this is a very young boy, I used to just write letters to her all the time, like maybe every day. And occasionally there would be a phone call. But for the most part, not much access to her, you know, unless she would get to come home for a while. But I would just write every day. I was just writing letters, just letter writing. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't internet. It had to be put in the mail and mailed and all of that stuff. And my sister used to make sure that the letters were mailed out. And, you know, my mom used to say that I wrote nice letters, and people would say that. But it wasn't like at that time, I aspired to be a writer or anything. Not that young, but it was something that was always with me. And at the time, with my mom being away, and, you know, you have your frustrations, it was something that was, you know, cathartic for me. You know, it would soothe me and make me feel better about life, make me feel better about my situation. And I felt like it would bring my mother close to me. So that's something that when I began to pursue writing as a professional, that's something that stayed with me, that kind of connection to it like that. Until, you know, at some point, I just became very, very passionate about it. And that was something that I shared with Dr. Hazel when I came to his jurisdiction. I felt like it was something that nobody would be interested in, because the field is very hard. The field is very hard. Like, I had done things like submitted, you know, things to the New York Times and stuff like that. It's a very hard field to crack. And by the time I became a Freemason, I always knew one way or the other. I didn't know anything about the Morse rite, but I always knew that I wanted to write a Masonic ritual. I knew that. As soon as I became familiar with the literature in Freemasonry, I knew, I said, I want to write a Masonic ritual one day. And I looked into that, and there were no avenues open for that either, Sister Audrey. And most of the people who had written Masonic rituals were like dead, you know, and they were people from the 1800s, maybe earlier. So that seemed like it was a far off goal and aspiration. But when I met Dr. Hazel, and I shared with him that I was a writer, he embraced it. He embraced it, made me feel very good about it. And it was something that I didn't always tell everybody, but I'd made a living from it. I did different things. I wrote different things. I wrote documents and law documents and things like that. But the embrace of Dr. Hazel and the work with the Ancient Free Morse Rite, that Sister Audrey gave me the opportunity to, you know, spread my wings. But it's something that you do. It's a passion, it's a discipline, and I'm always working on it. It's like I never stop doing it. I continue to buy books on writing. And I think you know that about me. And I continue to have that passion for it. But I believe it started way on with my mom and she not being around and me being able to send her letters. And, anything that you do and you do a lot of it, you're going to become good at it. Just like anything else, there are people on this call who specialize in things, and they had to put the work in. They had to learn their skill, they had to learn their craft, they had to put some time in it. And I did the same thing. I always appreciate questions like that because at the time, people used to say to me and Doc, well, who the hell do you think you are that you could be writing a ritual? That kind of thing. So, but sometimes they don't know who you are. They don't know your background. And they don't know that maybe it's something that's a passionate discipline for you. So I've been, all I can say is that was the inspiration, Sister Audrey, but certainly meeting Dr. Hazel and tackling Masonic writing. I had the secret desire that I knew I wanted to one day do that, but meeting Doc and this Morse Right thing was like, whoa, here it is. It's like, I got the opportunity to do this. And that's all I wanted to do. I wasn't, Brother Edwards, I wasn't interested in being a Supreme Grand Commander or anything like that. That was like the least of my interest. I just wanted to write. And I told Doc, I said, hey, look, if you need a ritual or something, and he said, yeah, I wish somebody would write a ritual. I said, well, I'm your guy for that. I would like that opportunity. And that's what we did. And by the time Doc appointed me Supreme Grand Commander, it wasn't something that I was looking for. There were Freemasons who I felt were far more qualified than me. And again, one or two of those brothers had been very much affiliated with the Great Seal. So I knew some Moors out there that I felt that when it came to Freemasonry and some of those things, I didn't think that I could, light a candle with those brothers. But I did feel that when it came to writing the candle with writing, then you can't write with me. But it was something that, I might say that I was in the right place at the right time, sister. That's how that happened. Strange that you never did ask me that, but yeah.
I have a
Thank you,
question
sir.
that I see in the chat group. The question is the ancient Morse Rite, ancient free Morse Rite, any connection to the Scottish Rite? My answer was no, because I had never heard of the ancient free Morse Rite until about maybe 2 years ago when I met a brother at the mosque who was ancient free Morse Rite. And then I met with Brother Ray and he was giving me information. So as far as I know of, it is not a connection, but some of you who are more educated than I am, you could please speak on that.
Well, you know what? I know there's a time constraint, brother, with respect to that. It's a can of worms, but I want to open it up a little bit, just a little, okay?
Go for it.
All right. I was with Doc one day and we were getting some copies made of the Morse Rite material.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a Freemason. I recognized somebody. I recognized some ring that they had on. They might have even had on a pendant. And we struck up a conversation. And I said to him, in the beginning, when the Morse Rite was fresh and new and young and just an embryo, I didn't always say that I was a Morse Rite Freemason. I would say that I was a Scottish Rite Freemason, of course. And Dr. Hazel said, well, maybe you want to start saying that you're a Morse Rite Freemason. So I told him I was a Morse Rite Freemason. And then he was a white guy. And he said, he thought about it for a minute. And then he said, He said, He said, I think I might heard of that. He said, what is that? Is that the other side of the Scottish Rite? So when he said that, I was like, okay, I think my man knows something. And I'll tell you a short historic story. And Brother Edwards, especially a nod to the history that you just recapped. It was a Moorish wazir, and the Moors used to frequent Scotland a lot. I think some of you brothers know that. And there was a connection between the Moors and the Scots. But in the early days, when they were starting to get used to the Moors, and at this time, Scotland was under oppression from the British crown, right?
Mhm.
And the Moors would come through, and the Moors would help to relieve some of that stress and anxiety that the Scots were going through. And one of the people asked one of the Scottish people, one of the Moorish generals asked about the Scottish people, because generally they had been dealing with like the Welsh and the Irish for the most part, right? Because they were all oppressed under England. And he said, I'm impressed with these. This is the Morse was there. He said, I'm impressed with these people here. And he said, who are they? And then the answer was, the Scots are the Moors of Britain. Now, I say that to say, I think you know a lot of this history, so I'm not going to say anything that you don't know.
Right.
But Dr. Hazel was divinely brilliant to bring the Moorish Rite through the Scottish Rite. I mean, of course, he's a Scottish Rite Freemason anyway. But Doc and I used to talk about that history because, and this could be for another meeting, there is a major component that connects the Moors and the Scots. We won't go into it now, but Doc was divinely brilliant to bring the Moorish Rite through the Scottish Rite. And I see my good brother, Donnie Jackson here, who was Dr. Hazel's lieutenant when the ancient free Moorish Rite was ratified and we came through. Peace and gracious greeting to you, Brother Donnie.
Peace.
And Doc, so he knew this connection. So the Moorish Rite to come through the Scottish Rite, we came through the Scottish Rite because Doc wanted us to have Masonic legitimacy. Then he let us go as a sovereign obedience. But that connection between the Scottish Rite and the Moorish Rite, it's there, because where would that brother, later on I became friends with him, but where would he have gotten that information to say, whoa, isn't the Moorish Rite the other side of the Scottish Rite? What have you not been told?
Oh, you sound to me that that's going to be another show. That has to, yes.
Yes, sir.
Tony Muhammad, let me say something to you.
Can't say it in front of my wife. Wait till my wife leave. Thank you. Go ahead. You can say it now. She gone.
Okay. Not trying to blow smoke up Brother Aleem's back, but
whoa, bro.
He is one of the most prolific writers, one of the most humble brothers I've ever met. Like, I sit on calls with him sometimes and we talk, because when we first met and I told him what I wanted to do.
No, he cursed me out. He cursed me out, brother. He cursed me out. You told me you were gonna punch me in my nose. And I thought to myself, I said, well, he must have a nose too. So when we met, I said, oh no, he don't have a nose, he got a big head. So yes, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
And like the language, the passion that he has for writing this stuff, like, I can tell you for a fact, don't believe me, but understand that some of the words that he's introduced many of us to are something that you would not find in a typical ritual. Like I explain to the brothers all the time, you have to read the glossary to understand the words we're using as Morse Rite Freemasons, to get a true gist of what's being said. And the same thing when I asked him, I said, Brother Elday, I think the sisters need the same type of glossary. He said, Brother Edwards, do what you do, get back to me with it. So now, my challenge is to everybody. If you think you want to play words with friends, me and Elday are on the same team, and we're going to tear y'all behind up.
Mm-hmm.
Because the words that he uses are crazy, and they all mean so much. When you tell somebody what a xenophobe is, you're xenophobic. What does that mean? That you're scared of something. Every word in there has a substantial meaning when it comes to understanding what the Morse Rite is really about.
Yes, sir.
Like I can tell you that I've been fighting with certain organizations. I'm not going to say their name because I'm not going to give them the credibility no more. That you cannot prove the things that we can prove when it comes to Freemasonry. Everything we show you in this organization predicates everything you were taught. We're not asking you to drop what you were taught. We're asking you to embrace what you don't know. Because we are supposed to be on a situation to search for more light. That is our obligation as Masons. So if you're not searching for more light, what are you here for? You can say, I'm going to subdue my situation. Y'all know what that means for those that are Masons. But that does not mean that we're supposed to drop everything and forget about what we need to know. I've learned so much by being a National Grand Master under the direction and tutelage of the Elday. We've met on several occasions. We have a great relationship. And guess what? I want to share the same thing. Like, I don't traditionally, as a National Grand Master, like, you know how you go in certain situations, you say, oh, we got these 12 guys that are in charge. Anybody that's a Grand Master knows if you come into the Ancient Free Morse Rite and you're allowing that to operate in your jurisdiction, you will be a part of the National Helm, which is really my advisors. When I go to them, I come with an attitude that says, what should we do? They say, well, I think you should do this. Okay, yeah, there's times when I got to make a decision as a National Grand Master because I have the right to, but it's all for the benefit and good of the organization. But we're about growth and teaching. So now when you want to be a part of something, you already have the green light to say, okay, fine. We're not trying to come up and take care or take part in controlling anybody's jurisdiction. What we're doing right now is we have over 6 Supreme Councils that operate in the Ancient Free Morse Rite dual jurisdiction. What do? Instead of saying, hey, you got your session, we all go to their sessions. We invite everybody to go and support so we can build Freemasonry around the world. But people aren't understanding that because they've been so hurt by situations when it comes to Ancient Free Morse, not Ancient Free Morse Rite, I'm sorry, into traditional Masonry. It's all about control. It's not about education. We want to educate you. Why is it that a blade of grass has 2 sides? Some of you don't understand. What is that blade of grass used for?
Come on, bro.
What is that ship about? What are the sails for? Do you understand that when you become an Ancient Free Morse Rite, you can pull that anchor up, but you're going to have to get calluses on your hand? That's my ridiculous analogy. You can't pull a rope. You can't pull a rope and not get calluses. And for those of you who don't understand, you cannot push a rope at all. It has no strength. So we have strength in numbers, and we're teaching people how to understand what was there. And guess what? It's what it is right now. We are on a path that nobody wants to embrace because guess what? It's the fear that has been taught to us for years. All of those guys, Albert Pike, you stole what you got from the Moors and took it and pimped it out.
Come on, bro.
So why are we the last ones? Because if you read in your Bible, there's certain chapters in your Bible that said, hide everything and take all the credibility from them. We teach those things. And I'm not asking you to believe us. I'm asking you to believe what's in your book of law. It tells you that we're not supposed to recognize these people. We don't want them to know. Why were they in the Caucasus Mountains? Why were we in the nice, beautiful areas around the world? Why did we make Kemet? Why did we live in Timbuktu? Why are we the ones that are bringing real profound light to anybody that wants to know? If you want to know, show up. All you got to do is show up. Now, I've got brothers on the phone that have never practiced this before. Now they're here practicing it. My good brother, Brother Nathan Thomas, is from Indiana. Brother Nathan Thomas, I'm going to ask you to share how you feel about what you've learned in the ancient Morse rite so far.
Thus far, I have to say that I am truly intrigued. I am excited to move forward. What I have learned is that I know nothing of my history that I have to learn. It is imperative that I learn. And here is the perfect platform to be able to learn. Listening to the L-Day and understanding that, understanding what a ritual is, why a ritual is what it is, and it was written by someone that I can actually reach out to that looks like me, is completely inspiring. It is something that will take me to the end of my day. And the Morse rite is a rite that I have clinched to, as every Masonic brother has a house or a degree that they love. And as time moves forward, I am growing more of a passion for the Morse rite. And that is my piece.
I got one more question for you, Brother Nate. Now, you understand I'm your National Grand Master, right?
Yes, I do.
You know the L-Day is uglier than me, right?
Some days, brother.
I plead the fifth.
Invoke your rights. Invoke your rights.
Well, you know, Brother Edwards and Brother Muhammad, you know, I would be remiss. You know, I have to call on people, Brother Edwards, that are, of course, you know, more beautiful than you and I. You know, we try hard on our best day, right? But Brother Muhammad, I don't know if you're about to wrap things up, but I just have to, you know, it's important to me, you know, the brethren that I work with, of course, Brother Edwards, Brother Alexa John Page, Brother Kareem, who you've met, Brother Guillermo Perez, our Grand Master in New York City, the Grand Master of the flagship, Brother Renee, Brother Morse Wright, Brother Razi Bey, Brother Solomon Thomas L. All of you brethren know Brother Aket Rael, Brother Adir, Brother Eddie Williams, Brother Abdullah.
You trying to remember all of them?
Yeah, you know, brother.
I heard that. Bro,
yes, sir.
You done called out quite a few names, but I do have a brother on here. His name Calvin. He has a question, and he's been having his hand up for a while, so he can go right ahead and ask his question.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome. I wanted to ask a question regarding the ritual, and I'm quite aware that there's certain parts of the ritual, or if the entire ritual, that you cannot disclose publicly. However, I wanted to know, is the ritual, it sounds like from the way it was explained, and I've been on since the beginning, that the Moorish rite is not built on the legend of Hiram Abiff, which we would interpret as being Masonic. So if it's not built on the operative Masonic legend, Enter the Apprentice Fellow Craft, and then the death and resurrection of Hiram, how is it Masonic? Because from my understanding, and you have to excuse my my level of study, maybe I need to study more. In order for it to be Masonic or Freemasonry, it has to be structured around the operative Freemasons, the legend of the well, not a legend, it's actually a historical fact, but the Enter the Apprentice Fellow Craft, and then the Master Mason. Thank you.
Can I
Yeah,
answer that?
brother.
Oh,
Brother Edwards, was that you?
yes, sir.
Oh, okay. You wanna
To the
go
brother
with
that
that
asked the question, yes, sir.
one?
To the brother that asked the question, we focus on pretty much three people when it comes to Masonic understanding without talking organizational structure, because they all operate under the Masonic structure. But when we're talking about King Solomon, Hiram, King of Tyre, and Hiram Abiff, none of those individuals were of Caucasian persuasion. Can we agree to that?
I don't think that these people ever existed in actually, but
so now I would love the opportunity to discuss with you, because everybody on this line is not a Mason right now.
Okay,
so
that's
we could have a great conversation and delve into bigger things, so you would have an understanding without giving up so much. But I'm just going to tell you honestly that when we say, like, okay, we know that the so-called first Grand Lodge system was formed in 1717 based on the stories that they tell, correct?
Yes.
So now when I show you, when we talk and I give you the information and you research yourself, when did things like this happen? Who was Angelo Salamine? How did they treat this man? Because he was sharing information to the world. He trained Mozart. He spoke different languages to everyone. See, Moors at that time were skilled in everything: finance, cultivation, understanding, teaching. They all had swords. They all had horses. We come to situations where, guess what? We as Knights Templar, because we pretty much all, if we reached a certain level of Masonry, had to become a Royal Archmason. Those were the Moors of York. The other people were pretty much the Knights Templar were taught by the Moors. I'm not going to tell you exactly who they are until you are ready to take that step. And then as you take that step, you'll understand and say, whoa, I didn't know that. Just like when we talk about the earth and how it had this gravitational pull and separate these places, we talk about Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark did not have any oars on it. They just floated based on the story and the pictures that we've seen. You never seen oars on that, right? There were multiple arks used. Some of them weren't arks. They were ships that carried multitudes of people, supplies and everything that at that time were bigger than aircraft carriers that carry right now today 8,000 to 10,000 people. One ship had over 4,400 oarsmen on it.
Come on, bro.
So how big was that ship? That ship shared everything. The information that we have, others would die for this information. Y'all don't understand. When it came to the UGLE, they tried to make a deal with Brother Alim to get the information because they know how valuable it is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, brother. You know, and I'm going to respect Brother Edwards' response and answer to you, because there's so much more there. And Brother Muhammad, that's another can of worms. And
I'm going to add to that because when he
mhm.
was talking about the anchor, if we know anything in regards to the 9 emblems of masonry, I'm listening and I'm piecing together some stuff that I didn't necessarily see coming when he talked about the anchor. Then he talked about the Noah's Ark and how it was built, and it was a floating vessel versus a sailing vessel. And talking about pulling up a rope because you can't push a rope. Okay, all right, I'm learning.
Let me just say this to you,
Yes,
Grandmaster
sir.
Hawkins. How is the anchor in the ark in the Masonic ritual when it has nothing to do with building? Freemasonry is built on building, right?
I get it. I get it. I get that part. But well, I'm going to add to that because when I think of the anchor as far as masonry is concerned, it is something that's supposed to hold you down. Once it drops as far as off a ship or a boat, it's supposed to keep that ship steady. However, in adding to that, then that leads right back to where you're at right now when you talk about the Morse rights in selling in water. So that's what I'm piecing together. That's what I'm getting out of this right now.
Let me drop a jewel on you.
May
Right
I
now.
say something?
Sure, go ahead, brother.
Well, the anchor or the ark, those 9 emblems, that's not traditional to pre-1813 ritual. That is something that Thomas Smith Webb created. He literally, in my opinion, he bastardized the rituals from both the moderns and the ancients, and he created something. Again, all my opinion, it is my hypothesis, and I stand by it. But he literally bastardized the rituals, and he created something uniquely American. This is not you don't find that in the old rituals. You don't find that stuff. This is specifically American. So when this is what I'm trying to understand. How does this play? Now, for some people, they may accept it. I'm a little bit more red as with regard to ritual and history. So I have specific questions that may seem like I'm poking or I'm being a nuisance, but I specifically have questions that I would like to know. How does this Moorish rite play into the structure of what we would know as Freemasonry? And one more question dealing with Angelo Solomon. Solomon was a member of a lodge that was chartered by the Premier Grand Lodge of England. And their form and ceremony isn't like anything we know today. So how does he play into the Moors?
Well, here's something to keep in mind, brother Calvin. The Hiram Abiff was an allegory. You know that. And it was not based on historical fact.
No, it wasn't, and it was introduced to English Freemasonry by Desaguliers, a Frenchman.
Right, it's an allegory,
right. Exactly.
And that Frenchman and Anderson and some of the same people, they put that together. So, what history were they basing that allegory on?
I don't know.
Hold on. They had to put together an allegory because you asked originally how was that tied in, and that if how could the ancient free Moorish rite be Freemasonry if it's not tied into that Hiramic legend? That was your question, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, right. That Hiramic legend comes around in between 1717 and 1723. It didn't exist before that.
No, it did not.
But Freemasonry existed.
Okay.
Now, Anderson will tell you that himself. He will tell you that we grafted this on some history, right, of Freemasonry that existed where? Now, you said you studied and well-read.
Right. Let me ask you a question.
He said it existed beyond the sea, right?
Right. Absolutely. I agree with you. But that's in the first version of Anderson's Constitution, the 1723. He came back and he offered a rebuttal in 1738, and they removed a lot of that stuff because the original Constitution that that he provided as a Presbyterian was heavily based on white Anglo-Saxon religious ideology. It wasn't, in my
Of course.
opinion, it wasn't
Of course.
rooted in anything substantive. It was all,
Of
okay,
course.
we're white and this is what we believe and you better believe it or
Mhm.
death comes
Mhm.
to you.
Right.
Right.
And he drew on a lot of his experiences as a Presbyterian minister.
Right, absolutely.
The point that we're making is that there is an allegory. There is a name that we use, which is Ariam Abeth Bay, that predates the Hiram allegory. Now, what gave them the right to construct an allegory and say that this was strictly Freemasonry? Put it this way, for European Freemasonry, it worked if that's what you wanted to do. If that's what you wanted to say, then it worked. However, we knew that Freemasonry existed before that. It existed before that allegory, and that allegory was drawn on some other truths, although it wasn't true, but it was drawn on specific truths. So they had to use what was truthful in order to come up with something false.
Absolutely. Yeah. In order to tell a good lie, you got to have a little truth.
You got to have some truth. So
yes, sir.
That's right. So there's no real connection that we acknowledge. Like, we don't have to acknowledge the Hiramic legend to accept and embrace our own Freemasonry. Once again, it gets back to the initial question. If you're not practicing your own Freemasonry, then whose Freemasonry are you practicing? What about the legends that exist thousands of years before 1717 and 1723, when they got together and sat down and grafted this Hiramic legend?
Right.
What was it based on? What information did they use? What did they know that they chose not to tell the Masonic audience at large? Because not only did they keep out those who were non-Anglo, there were certain things about that they didn't even tell the rest of the Masonic world outside of Europe. You know this.
You said they kept out non-whites?
They didn't keep them out. They kept them out of the history of that allegory, because for a lot of years, people thought that the Hiramic legend was true.
Yes.
They practiced that Hiramic legend like it was a fact.
Absolutely.
It wasn't until later, 1900s, that people began to find out that that legend was nothing but an allegory.
Right, absolutely. Agreed.
So
what is your name, brother?
good questions from the brother.
Brumar.
Good
Where you
questions
from,
from the
bro?
brother.
Where am I from originally?
No, where you from now? Like where you live?
I'm a U.S. Army retiree. I live in Savannah, Georgia.
Okay. Well, when you get a chance, if you're on Facebook, please send me a friend request.
Absolutely.
Raymond R. Edwards Sr. Okay.
Right.
Because I will be coming to Georgia with a good friend of mine, past Grandmaster Rico McHenry. You know Rico?
Yeah, I know of Rico.
Okay, we will be coming to Georgia soon to build Jariahs in Georgia.
Hey, Ray.
Yeah.
Ray. Brother Calvin and Brother Debo are boys.
Debo was my man, bro.
Yeah.
And guess what? Debo knew and loved this information. I'm in the process right now of forming an imperial council that Debo started until his death.
Yeah, and that's still an open wound for us. I would wish you hadn't mentioned his name, because you just brought tears to my eyes because of the love and respect I had for him.
That's a good thing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we talk.
Any man that can't cry Masonic tears is not true Mason.
Yeah, he would call me at least 5-6 times a week. Right around the time he would leave to go to work, I'll be at work, and we would chat for 45 minutes to an hour and trade information. So,
well, we definitely need to link up. We definitely need to talk. I just want to say some things. I've learned so much, and we want to share so much, because guess what? It's our history. It's our Masonry. Brothers can sit back and say, well, this is what they taught us. All right, well, you already know certain things are a lie just by you being a part of it. The captain of the ship, was he a Mason or was he not? When you come to the ancient free Morse rite, you will understand what he truly was and what his actual position was on that ship. There was no land travel. It was all by sea, because that was the only place, that was the only way they could travel. So you had to know knowledge of a ship, and you had to know knowledge of building to get the job done, to get paid your wages, so you could travel back and forth to feed your family.
So I'm gonna say this because we could be on here all night, man. I know we have lost a few people as far as that was in the group chat on the Zoom. Sure. We're down to like 89, 77, something like that. But so what I want to do, if this is okay with Brother L Day and Brother Raymond Elwes in the Brothers of the Morse Rite, if you want to come back, we can definitely do a part 2 of this to continue this conversation, because I got some interesting questions in the chat. One question is that can a Morse Scottish Rite, brother, or can a Morse Rite be part of the Scottish Rite and not go through the blue houses in order to make it happen? We don't have to answer that tonight. I'm just saying those are some of the questions we have, and I want to come back and do this again if the brothers are willing to come on.
Can I answer that question real quick, Tony Hawkins?
Real quick.
Okay, I am the national hierophant in the order of Memphis Missourian. I have authority to start Supreme Councils. Not that I asked for it, it was granted to me because of what we were trying to accomplish. So to answer your question, yes, yes, yes. It's just, I've been after the L Day, hey man, we need to do something. And I'm not trying to put no pressure on him, but just like I put pressure on him, that we're gonna make these brothers understand knowledge to make him unleash some more of the information that he has that we have yet to get. In the ancient free Morse rite, there's the Asiatic, the Muwahid, the Wali, the Sayyid 1 and Sayyid 2. And I'm not gonna mention the other degrees that go higher, but we are putting pressure on the pipe so the pipe can unleash more knowledge. Sorry, L Day, I threw you under the bus, but guess what?
I'm used to being on the buses, brother. But here's the thing, but I still don't bust. So that knowledge and that information, those other degrees, see, Doc wanted us to get ourselves in. He wanted us to get our people in, right? Get them in, because brothers were being turned away, blackballed for no reason. You know, just a travesty of justice when it came to brethren who wanted to get the information, get the knowledge. So we come in, we get on the ship, we have the information, we got the knowledge. Now, as we move on to beyond our deck degrees, you mentioned the 4 deck degrees. Beyond our deck degrees, you got to earn it. You got to earn that. It's not going to be that easy. We love you and we're glad to have you aboard. But with the deck degrees, we have to know beyond that, that you know the deck degrees. And that's it. And that's the degree, Brother Edwards, you were talking to me about the other night. So you and I are going to build on that. But they got to earn it. And what's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that, right? Isn't that fair?
Very fair.
Okay. So that's all right. We're going to earn it.
So
Yes,
Grandmaster Tony, I know it's getting late. We're in different time zones. Thank you, brothers from California and the Midwest and the East Coast for coming out to support. We can continue this conversation. If anybody is interested, you can always send me a friend request. When you send it to my messenger so I know who you are. Hey, this is Brother so-and-so. I'm interested in having further conversations. But if you just send me a friend request, I don't just answer everybody's friend request. I got too many friends on Facebook to just answer anybody. If you don't tell me who you are, I'm not going to respond to it. Send me a friend request. When you send it to my messenger so I know who you are. Hey,
this is Bear.
So-and-so.
This is a brother named Eric Collins telling you hello.
Okay.
You ever heard of?
I know Eric Collins.
See that?
He's in
Grandmaster
Florida.
Muhammad? Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so look, I don't have anything else to add. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. I want to thank everybody for coming on, and you know, we're gonna have to do a part 2 to this. Just let me know when we can make it happen, Brother Edwards, and we will do that.
Already.
So with that being said, as I say always, stay out the bushes, keep your light on, and remember this, I am not your study guy, but I am here to help you study. So else, oh man, brother's still trying to get on here tonight. I'm sorry you're a little late. I will admit you, but you were definitely a little late getting on here. We've been on here for 2 hours and about 18 minutes. To everyone, the sisters, I want to say peace to you. Thank you for coming on, sharing that light with me. As one who will probably see Ray in about a couple of weeks here, I want to say thank you to all, and we're going to shut it down.
Peace, brother.
Peace.
Peace.
One more thing.
Peace.
If you want to remain on the YouTube, I'll leave. I mean, if you want to remain on the on the live, you can.